right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of Ghost in the Machine. Here with my co-host Liz Short. Thank you so much, Liz, for being here. So today, our first episode, we are just going to be talking really about why we decided to do this show and what we hope to accomplish over the next several dozen episodes. Who knows how long this will go. Okay, so Liz, you really had the idea originally for this. You were the one who approached me at an MMLA event and said, we've got to do something with AI where we talk about the actual like serious topics, right? Not what is ICE doing or this company or that company, but really looking at the deeper philosophical discussion and what all of this sort of looks like, right? So why was that important to you? Like, where did that come from?
Well, first of all, thanks for agreeing to me and my crazy idea when I cornered you in the restaurant bar of MMLA. I appreciate that. We have talked a lot, especially in our industry of mortgage and finance. You go to a conference, you're hit in the face with every which way of AI. And, I think rightfully so. It's been a major change in the world, over more than the past few years, but the past few years have definitely exacerbated it. And I hear a lot of the benefits, right? And well, at least what some people think are the benefits of AI. But there's a whole different side of it, right? As any technology advancement piece has, there's pros and cons. And I think if you're not talking about what some of the negative things could be, if you're not talking about how to mitigate what could be pretty big issues, or even small issues, right? I don't think it's really a full conversation. I think there's a lot that you're leaving out. And I don't think AI is a bad thing per se, although I'm very excited to be a skeptic because I usually don't get to play that role. So this is exciting. But I do think that with anything, we have to go into it with our eyes open and think about all of the different ramifications and how we approach those both strategically and with some thought around what those implications could be, right? Like, it's not all good, not all bad, but it's not all good either. And I think some of those conversations are at least missing outside of the friends that I have, right? The side conversations we have, but they're not really out there today. And I'm excited to have some of those with you and with some other lot smarter people in the world of AI than me as well.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, so that's important for everybody to kind of understand is this is we're going to be bringing people on much smarter than us also to jump into. I don't know about Liz, but definitely smarter than me.
Definitely.
To kind of continue on those conversations. And I think you hit it for me, Liz, is one of the things that I've noticed is that the tech is moving so fast.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks they need to move at the same speed of like what's going on. And so stake there is that you've really got to sit down and think about how you really want to use this new technology. You have to really think about, like, how I said this to somebody the other way. What is the outcome that you're looking for? Like, I think people would be just way, way better off. And I've posed this question. I've actually told people to take this question and go think about it and then come back and talk to me, which is, what do you want your world to look like in 24 months? I think that's a really, really great exercise. Like, no matter what company you are,
Yep.
as an individual, whatever that is, and then say, okay, how do I get to that? Because I think one of the big problems right now is we're such an instant gratification like society that we're just like remember like I've said this a bunch of times, but like AI as it stands today is the equivalent to it is the Model T Ford
Yep. 100%.
as far as cars go, right? So like if you think the stuff is neat right now, just wait until 2 4 10 years from now. So I think it's a mistake also if you're like thinking about this only in the short term and you're not having the conversations of what does this look like, and what do we want the world to look like.
Absolutely.
That's sort of the point of the technology. It's not like the technology should serve us, not the other way around.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. And I think also defining what does the us mean. And when we talk about globally and as far as the world goes, this has the potential to change lives. And I think we have to look at what that looks like. I loved what you said about what do you want your world to look like in 24 months. You own a tech company, right? AI forward tech company. I
yes.
implement technology, right? So we see this a lot through both of our lenses of people saying, well, I want AI. Okay, that's great, but that can mean a million different things. And I believe that you have to define what your strategy is first. What are your strategic goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Just like you said. And then what tools and what path do you need to get there? Best in class is not necessarily best for everyone, right? There's a cost, as you said, to being first to market, right? You can end up with very, very, very old legacy technology very, very
I,
quickly.
I mean, I'm sorry, but look at Apple.
Yeah.
Apple has never been first to market with anything ever.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always sit back, watch wave one,
Yeah.
and I know that's funny to be something coming out of the mouth of a guy who owns an AI company. But I do think it's important to think about also like what is the foundation
Yep.
that you're going to set, because this is super transformative. Operating systems as we know them are going to look drastically different in 12 to 24 months. Like there's no question about that. But I think it's also important to be like having the conversations around only it also like your own personal life,
100%.
right? Like how is this, it's like I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old soon to be 17 in like 14 days. That's crazy. And so I think a lot about like, okay, what's the best way to position their lives and where should I sort of direct them, for what the next 10 or 20 years looks like, sort of situation. So I think a lot about education and like what are the things that are going to change like within the education space. But I also wonder like how is that going to change like the dating, like because everything's going to change in some fashion, right?
Absolutely.
It's like what's dating going to be like for my kids like in a full AI generation, sort of situation. So I think it's important, again, to sit down and think about like what is the world that I want to see, and how can I help, to create that. On the realistic side, if I am the optimist, like
Mhm.
I do think the end state is a very, very optimistic state. I do worry about the the bumpy road between.
For sure.
There's a transition stage that's going to occur, and I think that's really the question is like how do we as a society handle those shifts, right? Like when you think about it, like one of the areas that I immediately think about when I think about AI is like and I don't know the answer to this question, but what happens to, for instance, all of the people in the Philippines who have traditionally done call center jobs, who have done, SDR type
Yep.
roles. Like, how are we going to, get these folks transitioned into something different, right? Like, or we're like wrecking countries. Quite frankly, like the economy of countries that are built off the back of business process outsourcing.
Well, and you know, even here, there's a vast divide amongst jobs that will be replaced by AI and jobs that won't, and it doesn't cut down necessarily those traditional safe lines, right? And so I think it's critical that we have these hard conversations, right? And when you talk, sitting around with friends, or let's say different people outside of our very AI friendly, let's say, work world, maybe there's a lot of people that are, I don't want to touch it. I don't use AI. Of course, they do use AI in some way. They just don't understand how they use it, right?
Right. Yeah.
But in general are very, very negative. And I'm just as anti that as I am the people that are all in. There's no downside, right? Let's go balls to the wall with everything. I think you have to understand that the evolution, like you said, is good, but how do you mitigate risks, right? And then support people and support the fact that you are changing lives of vast demographics of folks. And as you said, there's no good answer to how we're guiding necessarily the youth, our teenagers, the folks that are in college right now, of what to do. And I think it's our job to have those conversations, which is why I'm glad that we're finding a space to talk about these things, because it is scary when you think about the fact that, major industrial revolutions usually take about 100 years to kind of even out for most people. So
Yeah.
we're talking about a long period of time here. But that doesn't mean, it's not something that we can stop or necessarily should be, right? This is part of evolution and our progress, but it's an interesting time to live in. That's for sure. From where I was in school to where we are now, it is just vastly, vastly different.
Oh yeah, it's insane. And the speed with which I feel like especially in the last few months, everything seemed to start speeding up
Yep.
even more.
Yep.
At least I feel like than it had.
And I feel like we've been saying that for, the past like year, every few months too. Like it just keeps accelerating as well.
Well, yeah, because they said that, I remember hearing there was a futurist at South by Southwest last year, who said that I think it was by the year 2030 that we will experience 10 years of innovation every year. Like that's the speed at which we're moving in the direction of. And we'll have this as a topic at some point. I am certain of that. But when we start looking at like the self-training of agents, I mean, I wrote a LinkedIn post I think last week just about what it's very quickly becoming like, just for a human who has basically an unlimited number of agents running all sorts of tasks for you, if you've got a good setup, right? But then imagine 2 years from now or 3 years from now where everything is now self-running and it's making its own decisions and it's rehosting it. Like it's a crazy thing to sort of think about, and the direction that all of it is going. And it's almost hard to see what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I think with all of these things that we're talking about comes extreme risk, especially when you're starting to be a first adopter, right? And so how do you walk the line of being engaged, trying things out, but also, especially when it comes to business, probably not being the first to try out the newest technologies in your business as well too. I think there is that interesting line of how fast do you go.
And I think that comes down to understanding your organization.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was actually thinking about this today. I think I'm going to build this, which is I want to build like it's be simple to do. But some sort of just a scored survey that would allow for you to determine who in your organization is an early adopter, who is a fence sitter, and who's a Luddite.
Mhm.
Right? Because that's going to tell you your roadmap
Yep.
quite frankly. Also, it's important to know because if you only have like 2% of your company that's, early adopters, then like you probably don't want to be the first in line,
Absolutely.
right? To be testing out, any of this stuff. But if you've got a lot of early adopters, then you probably should. You should
Yeah.
take advantage of that, but you should also take that into account when you're rolling it out.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, technology implementation is hard enough. And getting people to change their behavior and use new technology is really, really hard, like, regardless of its AI and people's feelings around it or not. And so, I mean, great
Well,
point. If people don't want to change what they're doing outside of AI, if they're not fans of AI or don't use it to begin with, it's going to be even harder to get them to make that change. And, I'm a big proponent of change management and, both organizationally and in life, right? And I think that's what, we really need to do is make sure that we can help people understand and feel comfortable with things so they are able to feel comfortable with adopting the new technology and getting over that curve so the organization or them in their own personal lives, right? I'm not saying you have to use AI for everything, but I do think understanding how to use it is helpful, right? Like when Google rolled out, not using Google isn't necessarily helping anybody today. And so you have to figure out how you can put those guardrails in place and educate people. And I think the combination of the two is what we really need with this technology changing so quickly.
Yeah, I do think people are missing the boat though on adoption a little bit because they need to remember that like AI for a lot of people like evokes like a visceral reaction,
Oh, of
right? Like
course.
like number one, like how much of it, like if we're all being honest, like how much of a pain in the butt is it just to roll out traditional
Oh,
SaaS? Like running
horrible.
for like let's go 5 years in the past. Let's go back to COVID, and trying to roll out a new LOS, right? Like you're already getting all sorts of pushback, right? And it's a complete and utter nightmare. Okay, so now you're doing, not, I mean, not quite an LOS, obviously, because that is a nightmare, but you're rolling out a brand new technology. And so, and again, people have like a visceral reaction to
Yep.
AI.
Yep.
And here's the bad news is the negative is a bigger percentage than like we're not like early adopter is like, if you've got 20% of your company as an early adopter, you're probably doing pretty good, I would
Oh,
suspect. I don't
yeah.
know what the exact numbers are, but that's just my own assumption. And I think it's hard for some of us who live in AI bubbles. Like I totally live in an AI bubble. So it's like I have to like have conversations with other people like as often as possible
I'm
to be like,
pulling you out as much as possible
I'm
here
like,
a little bit.
you don't use it all day. I mean, I've Chris Mason, PK are probably the two people I talk to the most. I mean, PK lives inside of AI.
The three super users, like in general in the world of AI right there.
Yeah, but I do think that organizations really need to approach this differently from an adoption perspective, and they need to have more conversations. Like they
Oh,
need to have
absolutely.
more like all hands, like let people give their opinions, ask people what they don't like. The beauty is like if deployed appropriately within an organization, like you can kill it. But you got to go about it in having the conversations or getting a consulting group to come in and have the conversations across your organization
Yeah.
and understand like, okay, well, Susie and Jimmy hate to do X
Yep.
and we can get rid of X with AI.
Yep.
Okay, let's put that on the board,
Yep.
right? And then let's start to stack all the wins where
100%.
we know people want to see, rather than like you've got to make it collaborative. And if you make it collaborative, people will get on board and you will see the adoption and you will see the ROI and it will work out. So like when I see these studies of like AI is not working in the workforce and I'm like, no, you know what's probably not working is the executive team and their rollout.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, again, getting back to what you said, just technology rollout outside of AI is incredibly difficult. I mean, it's why I do what I do, 50%. But to your point, you said rollout successfully done. I was going to add one caveat, and you did, to solve a specific problem, right? You can't just bring a product in and not be solving something that needs to be solved, right? And so to your point, being collaborative with your team, understanding what those pain points are and figuring out how to solve them. I always tell people some of the best wins are automating a button click. People get really happy if not having to click a button 3 times, right? And how do you figure out the equivalent of what we can see as easy wins inside the AI bubble and start selling some of those wins to the organization. I think the other thing, leaders in organizations shoot themselves in the foot when talking about AI, not just by they don't talk about it enough because they don't have any words around it to say, right? Because in their heads, they're like, we're going to reduce headcount. And that might be true, right? Let's all sit and think. And there are just some rules that are not going to exist anymore.
Oh, no.
In general, right? But you can't approach your organization with that message or not say anything because you don't have any positives to say, or you can't think about it that way. And so I'm always amazed by the lack of not only communication, but like really good messaging points that executives have when talking about AI within their organization. And I think, again, they're shooting themselves in the foot because you have to get your team to use the technology. And we're nowhere near getting rid of your whole team and just using technology, no matter what some folks think,
No,
right?
but here's the mistake. And the mistake is when you don't sit down and you don't ask yourself, what do I really want this organization to look like, right? And here's what I mean by that is okay, if I'm just like making stuff up here, right? But like if I've got 6 transaction managers and I can get rid of 3 of those 6 transaction managers because of AI, because I can make 3 transaction managers worth 6, but I love all 6 of my transaction managers that I have, right? Well, what you should be thinking about is what is the other revenue line that I now want to bring into this organization? Because you know what? I got 6 rock stars, and actually I just turned it into 12 rock stars. So why would I not, right? Like, that's what I mean when I say, like, for the love of God, stop like looking at one tiny problem or doing what all the other cool kids are doing. I have no problem with voice AI. I think there's some great people doing really great things out there. All I'm saying is, like, everybody got like obnoxiously excited about basically robocalling.
Yep.
I thought robocalling was a bad thing.
No, not when you put AI in front of it.
It's AI.
AI washing.
AI enhanced AI washing. Oh my God. You've just come up with that's a new term. I've not heard anyone say AI washing.
I love it. To your point, the other side of adoption is the end consumer. And there are some people who never want to talk to a person and love automating everything. And there are some people that for some things want to talk to a human, or I want to do everything. I don't want to talk to a human until I want someone there right now to fix it for me. And so as we figure out how we implement things, we have to consider in our businesses as well too, you might want to create different paths for different customers and different use cases, which means if you have 3 transaction managers, you might also then be able to create a high touch concierge line for a bigger value client. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. And when you think of it from how do we get rid of people, and I know we're saying the same thing here, you're thinking about it from the wrong angle, you have to think about how do you optimize the people that you have and be able to have them use the specific skills that they have. And I think AI allows you to tremendously help folks with some of their shortcomings in order to perform their job more efficiently as well too. And some of those things I think are the things that some organizations should be really investing in first when they think about AI within their organization.
Yes. Which again, it all circles back to that, like, slow down and actually think. Like, what do I
What a
want
novel concept.
and what do I want to accomplish? Well, I'm just saying, like, because I
It's true
think
though.
it's important that, like, you are looking at your AI roadmap. And I think the other thing is like, don't be afraid to bring in a consultant
Yeah.
or like a fractional chief AI officer.
Yep.
Right. Who can kind of help guide that from that perspective. On the other side of it, from the personal side, because I do think it's important for people to kind of think about that, like their own individual. I would recommend to everybody that, like, you're spending time in the tools, that you're coming up with, like, fun ways to, like, leverage it, right? Like, I'm actually going to start building a company with each one of my sons.
Very cool.
And we're going to use Claude Code for the whole entire thing. Have them come up with the technology idea, plan it out in Claude, use Claude Code to write, all of the code for it, for them to have to, like, work through that, like, do Q&A, of software and whatnot. But it's a good way for them to get, accustomed to starting to use the tools, and it's something, fun to do. And, like, I'll probably have to learn things, also along the way. But I do think, I mean, it's totally fine if you want to be a Luddite. That is your it's your game to play. I mean, I guess there'll be a place, right? It'll be like, why do we still have vinyl?
For sure. Yeah.
My wife was saying the other day that, like, there'll be a huge market for, like, handcrafted, like, anything made by human hands.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
we'll suddenly, that's the elite will have, furniture that's actually made by humans or whatever.
Well, it is. It is interesting, and again, we don't know. Who knows where it's going to go? But I do think we as human beings don't all act the same way, don't all like the same things, and so I agree with you. I think that ignoring the technology is not doing anyone any favors, and especially if you have kids. You need to understand it. Whether or not you like it, you need to understand it, so you can help them understand it and use it as well too. But it's as has been with technology, you have to get good at learning how to learn new things, right? Because you're not just going to learn AI. You just don't learn how to do it. You learn what it is now, what's new, how it's evolving and growing. And so I think teaching and having an appropriate level of interest, understanding, and knowledge about what's happening and how it works is appropriate today. And even if you do think that AI is the worst thing in the world, you kind of need to understand it so you have a point and can speak to that as well too. Not going to stop it, unfortunately or fortunately, but you need to have awareness, right? This is a major, 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 major change that we're living through right now. And it's incredible and incredibly scary. And that's what's going to be fun about us diving into all of this, because we get to talk about both of those pieces.
Yeah, I think ultimately, though, it's just that people be educated, and like you said, I mean, this is a massive shift. It's here to stay. It's not going. No. It's not going away.
No.
So I think the more everybody gets involved in how it gets shaped, will be good. So
yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some episodes we have coming up?
Absolutely.
Next week, we're going to talk about whether or not AI is a tool or an organism. And I just want to, as a sneak peek to that, I had a conversation with Claude about what it thought. Do you think Claude is a boy or a girl, by the way?
A boy.
A boy. Okay. It's interesting to me because, like, everybody, like, makes these chatbots men for some reason. Every time I ask, I'm like,
Yeah. It's because they don't get things right all the time.
huh? Okay. Anyways, so it'll be an interesting episode. I think I really go back and forth on this whole thing. I've referred to it as a tool, but I personally sit in the camp that I think it's more an organism. And then the week after that, we're going to be diving into the good.
Good.
We're going to have just focus on the good.
We're going to talk about all the good things that AI does.
Yes, but then to balance things out,
I get to come to the table with all of my concerns the week after and talk about the bad. Mwahaha.
And then we'll kind of go from there. I know we want to get into, hearing from other industries, how they are rolling it out, what they are thinking about it.
Yep.
Bring in some professors, people who are more philosophical. We're going to definitely have at least one episode talking about simulation theory, merely because there's a lot of interest. It gets really, really interesting when you start breaking down how large language models work and how the brain works. And then you start thinking about the simulation theory, and it is a rabbit hole you can end up very, very deep in. And I often do.
Cannot wait.
So that should be a really interesting episode as well. So,
and if anybody has any topics they would like us to talk about, people they think we should talk to, let us know. Right, we are definitely open to ideas, suggestions, and recommendations from everyone too.
Yeah, and if you just go to ghostinthemachine.studio, there's actually a form on there you can fill out to recommend either yourself or somebody else who is working in AI or talking about AI or thinking about AI or, any of the above.
Anything goes, no expert degree required.
Exactly. Liz, thanks so much.
This has been fun. Yes. I cannot wait to continue these conversations.
We'll see you back here next week.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.